Basically, a chemical equation tells us about how to deal with moles and atoms and particles like these. This is basically, we study a chemical equation. अभी हमने थोड़ी देर पहले मतलब कुछ अर्सा पहले हमने सिर्फ एक सिंपल इक्वेशन देखे थे. तो फॉर एग्जांपल इफ वी हैव समथिंग लाइक दिस, ठीक है, so it is two atoms of hydrogen, two atoms of oxygen. Here it is two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen. Okay. So basically, this equation is not balanced. This equation is not balanced. Okay. So अब हमें इसे balance करना होगा तो what do? We can just write 2 here, right? And then we can write 2 here. So this would now balance up as 4 hydrogen and this would now balance up as 4 hydrogen and 2 oxygen. तो ये हमने डिस्कशन किया था. इस तरह की बहुत सारी बातें आती भी रहेंगी, कुछ चलती भी रहेंगी, हम करते रहेंगे. बट टुडे आई वांट टू स्टार्ट अप विद मोल्स. दैट इज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट कॉन्सेप्ट्स इन केम. तो मोल्स बेसिकली क्या होते हैं? मोल बेसिकली इज इन सिंपलेस्ट टर्म क्वांटिटी और अमाउंट ऑफ अ सब्सटेंस. So, a particular relevant example for this can be, what do you guys understand by, a dozen? What do you get when you say dozen? So basically the number comes out as 12, right? So anything can be a dozen. Maybe, no, not a lot, but only 12. Dozen is not a lot, dozen is only 12. Eggs can be a dozen, right? That means we are talking about 12 eggs. Students can be a dozen. That means we are talking about 12 students, maybe, 12 piece of anything, 12, any number that rounds, that is anything that is basically counts up to 12 is a dozen. Okay. So dozen is what? Dozen is not going to tell us the size. If I'm saying 1 dozen of eggs, am I referring to how big my eggs are going to be? If I'm saying a dozen bananas, am I explaining you the flavor of the bananas? If I'm saying a dozen apples, am I explaining the color of the apples? Answer is no. It's only 12. So that's just a number. So 12 is just a number. And 12 ke liye we have decided, to say dozen. That is it. इसी तरह से on the same context, when we say 6.02 exponent 23 of anything, maybe this is humans, maybe atoms, maybe molecules, maybe anything. So they are going to count up as 1 mole. In the same way, 1 dozen was equals to 12. So 1 mole is equals to this much particle, and this was calculated by a medio Avogadro, and this is still known as Avogadro's number. Few of the teachers they say it is Avogadro's number. I say Avogadro's number. जो भी आपको सही लगे, it will work fine. Okay. So do we have an understanding you know what do you get by moles? No, you just have to understand the concept of mole. नाम वाम याद नहीं रखना. मैं तो बस ऐसे ही बता रहा था कि मतलब ऐसे ही मैंने कहा थोड़ा सा मैं कूल लगूँ ना आपको लगे आपका कैम का टीचर कूल इंसान है. तो उसने रिसर्च की हुई है, जस्ट टू शो ऑफ, जस्ट टू फ्लेक्स, जस्ट टू डू थिंग्स लाइक दैट. तो ये मैं इसलिए आपको, तो यू डोंट हैव टू गो अबाउट कि अमीडियो एवोगेड्रो कौन थे, कैसे दिखते थे, इनके कितने बच्चे थे, कौन सा स्कूल में गए. हाँ, ऐसे ही मैंने बता दिया. The only thing that I want you to understand is 6.02 exponent 23 particles. That is one. ठीक है. अब आते हैं how do we actually calculate this. So there are different formulas which we use for calculation of moles. The most simplified formula for moles is going to be mass over relative atomic mass or relative molecular mass or molar mass. So we are going to discuss these three today in detail, but the general formula is here. That is mass divided by relative atomic mass, relative molecular mass, and relative molar mass. So first thing is, what is relative atomic mass? So relative atomic mass essentially is the mass of an atom. Okay, that is compared with one atom of carbon 12. So that's the basic definition. Now let's try to understand क्या मतलब है इसका. So example ले लेते हैं for sodium. The atomic mass is 23.01 and the atomic number is around 11. That's relative atomic mass. Now what this value means? This value means here is okay, there is sodium atom is 23 times 23.01, almost 23 times. Let's write it. तो आपको कुछ समझ में भी आएगा. 23.01. नहीं, मैं आता हूँ संस्कृत पर. हमने ये किया था बट आई थिंक दिस नीड्स अ रिव्यू, तो देख लेते. सोडियम एटम इज 23.01 टाइम्स as compared to कार्बन 12. अब इसका मतलब क्या है? इससे भी ज्यादा आसान करते हैं, ये तो मुश्किल बात हो जाएगी. मोस्ट सिंप्लीफाइड टर्म में इफ आई से मैं अपने मुल्क की बात कर रहा हूँ, तुम दोनों तो शायद बाहर के हो, तो तुम लोगों को तो जाहिर है बेहतर आइडिया होगा. आई लिव इन अ वेरी ग्रेट कंट्री दैट इज पाकिस्तान, राइट? एंड द ग्रेटनेस ऑफ पाकिस्तान इज एक्सप्लेन्ड इन टर्म्स ऑफ द यू नो exchange rate. Let's talk about exchange rate. Now, what does that has to do? I'm telling someone how great my country is, and that person is going to laugh just when he sees $1 equals 289 TKR. Okay? TKR is basically Pakistani rupees, and $1 is the standard international currency. So, what do you guys understand by this? That means almost my 300 rupees are equivalent to $1. So actual में my rupees make no sense to anyone. But when I compare it to dollars, then anyone can get an idea. Maybe people living in Middle East, people living in India, people living in Sri Lanka, people living in Malaysia can then get to know, okay, they are this much strong economy. This strong just was only for taunt. That was only just for joke. We don't have a strong economy. That is clearly visible here. So 1 rupee doesn't make any sense. 289 makes doesn't make any sense. It's just a number. But the understanding is we are comparing it with dollars. Let's come back to chemistry. So 23.01, is it grams? It is kilogram. Is it kilograms? Is it tons? Is it anything? No, it's nothing like that. This 23.01 just shows how much heavier one atom of sodium is when it is compared with carbon. So let's say I can explain it that way, in one other way. For example, this is carbon guy, right? And then this is sodium guy. So, these are two people, carbon and sodium. So by this number, what we can relate is, what we get to know is, this sodium guy is 23 times as big as carbon. Do you get this? Yes. Now, most of the students, what they do is, they confuse, two things. In fact, three things. They confuse AR, which we just did, relative atomic mass, with mass number. So mass number was if you don't remember, sum of protons and neutrons in a nucleus. That was mass number. It was nothing relevant to comparing how heavier it is as compared to carbon or how small it is as compared. It has nothing to do with that. Mass number was only mass number. That was only how many protons and neutrons are there. That is it. Done. Kahani khatam. But when we talk about relative atomic mass, so relative atomic mass as a relative essence, it means that we are comparing our atom's mass with that of carbon. That is the standard. Carbon को हमने dollar वाला standard बना. Do you get it? Good. Now, the other term is MR, that's relative molecular mass. So, relative molecular mass is basically sum of atomic masses of all the atoms present in one molecule of a substance. Now, what does that has to mean? So let's say I'm working on finding out how much heavier this one molecule of sulfuric acid is. The formula for the sulfuric acid's molecule is H2SO4. So I can go look at the periodic table and I'm going to find hydrogen as 1, sulfur as 32, oxygen as 16. Okay. Now, all of these are individual relative atomic masses. This is an atom's mass, this is an atom's mass, this is an atom. But once we sum it in accordance with how many atoms are here, then it becomes relative molecular. Let's do the math. So hydrogen atomic mass is 1. How many atoms we have of hydrogen is 2. So let's multiply it with 2. What do we get? 2. Sulfur's atomic mass is 32. How many atoms of sulfur we have? That's 1. So let's multiply this 32 with 1. So that's 32. Oxygen's atomic mass is 16. How many atoms of oxygen we have? That's 4. So let's multiply this 16 with 4. What do we get? 64. We add them up, that's 98. This is the relative molecular mass of sulfuric acid. Do you guys get this? Add the look. 64 plus 32 plus 2. Let's do some practice. So now you're supposed to calculate atomic mass of this and this guy, maybe this one also, maybe this one also. You can use a periodic table to find out the atomic masses. Yeah, calculator is allowed. Listen, the only subject which doesn't allow calculator is maths. You are allowed calculator in physics and chem in all of their papers. Math people are always bad. They want us to do everything without, a calculator. They want us to find their x, y's, z's without a calculator. But chem people, they're good. They want you to just understand things. No, as a subject, I think I have a, different perception, but I don't get this part of without calculator, doing anything without calculator. पता नहीं क्या logic है. Okay, so basically, first one's answer is not the given answer. 12, that is for carbon, times 6, 72. Hydrogen is 1 times 12, that's 12. Oxygen is 16 times 6, so that's 96. Once you add them up, you're going to get 180. Okay, this is 23 times 2, that's sodium. 46, that's 32 times 1, 32. That's 16 times 4, 64. That's 142. ठीक है, अब आते हैं ब्रैकेट वालों पे क्या करना, तो ब्रैकेट वालों में what you have to do is you have to multiply the term here, ठीक है, with the numbers here. So once you don't see any number, it is 1. Once you see 4, so you have to multiply it. So that's multiplication. So now aluminum is 27 times 2, that is 54. Sulfur is 32 times 3, that's 96. Oxygen is 16 times 12, that is going to be 192. So once you add them up, you're going to get 342. You guys get this? क्योंकि errors थे, so let's try some more examples. ये करो, let's try CCl4. Let's try uh, yeah. 24 plus 32 plus 2. So that is only 58. This is going to be 12 plus 142. That's 35.5 times 4. We can add plus 12 here. So this becomes 154, right? This comes out to be 100. This comes out to be 40 plus 32 plus 2, 74. This is 23, 14, and 48. So this is 85. सारे आंसर सही हैं आप लोगों के? Carbon basically is 12 and chlorine is 35.45 and we have 4 atoms of this. So that's I think 142 plus 12. That is 154. ठीक है? Calcium here is 100. Sorry, 40. Carbon here is 12. Oxygen each is 16 and it is times 3. That's 48. So this is yes, actually. बेटा कोई और कॉन्टेक्स्ट है नींद के अलावा? I think I might, you know, okay, I have, been teaching to many students. So I exactly not recall. maybe मैंने पढ़ाया हो. He's my student. Okay? Where is he studying? अच्छा एमडी क्या किया वो तो फिर होगा. Yeah. So, how do you know him? अरे वाह जबरदस्त माशाल्लाह. So how was his exam? Good job. तो यहाँ तक बेटा सबको समझ में आता है सब कुछ. थोड़ी सी कैलकुलेशंस को मजेदार करते हैं. Let's see how do we solve these kind of things. So what to do if we have something like this? So when you see a dot, what do? You calculate molecular masses separately, and then you add the answers. So proceed with finding NaCl's mass and H2O's mass, and whatever your answer is, just add them. So sodium is 23, chlorine is 35.5. That is going to be 58.5. Hydrogen is 2 here and oxygen is 16. So the answer is 18. Now you add them up. So you are going to get 76.5. Do you guys get this? Similarly, we can have something like this as well. It says 24H2. So we already did this thing, right? That was 342 and that's 18. Now you multiply 18 with 24 and then you add up the answer. You guys get this? Is this understood? So now you're done with this molecular mass thingy. So now we can move ahead with the calculations of molar mass and moles and all. So we can stop here while you practice this more, and then later on we can move ahead with that mole value. Okay. Okay. So let's end this. I'll share these slides, go through them, and inshallah in the next class we are going to solve questions on moles. Okay. Love that.